Welcome to the Exit Rich podcast, where the leading authority on buying, selling, fixing, and growing companies, Michelle Seiler Tucker, is dedicated to helping you find the path to retire rich and move on to your next adventure by exiting your business for the desired dream price you deserve. Get ready to exit rich with your host, Michelle Seiler Tucker.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of Exit Rich Podcast. I'm Michelle Seiler Tucker. You know me. I've been doing podcasts for years. Also, I've been really in the M&A business for over 26 years, specializing in buying, selling, fixing, and growing companies. I've sold hundreds and hundreds of businesses in pretty much every single industry you can think of, analyzed thousands of business models, and really helped entrepreneurs build companies that are scalable, sustainable, and of course, sellable. Today, we're going to examine one of the most fascinating business moves happening in America right now, Carvana. And you're going to ask me, Michelle, why are we talking about another business? Because here's the thing in business. Most business owners want to focus on their competitors, on their competition, what they're doing. But it's imperative to look outside of your box. Look outside of your circle. Look at what Disney's doing. Look at what Tesla is doing. Look at what Amazon is doing. Look at what these multi-billion-dollar companies are doing, because you can pick different things to incorporate into your company that you never thought of. And guess what? Neither did your competitor. So today we're going to look and see, what can we emulate from Carvana? Carvana, the company that disrupted used car sales, is now making a bold move into car dealerships. The question is this brilliant? Is this brilliant? Or is this dangerous? And more importantly, what can business owners learn from it? Because whether you're running a manufacturing company, a healthcare practice, a technology company, or a service business, there are lessons here that apply to every single entrepreneur. Let's dive in. The problem Carvana is trying to solve. Now, here's what makes businesses really, really highly successful. Find a problem, solve a problem. You don't always have to start something new. You can go back and look at everything that's already been created. How can you be unique? What problems can you solve? That's what I encourage all of you to do in your businesses. Let's talk about Carvana, what problem they're trying to solve. Let's start with something simple. Most people hate buying cars. I know I do. Think about it. You spend hours negotiating. You sit in a dealership. You talk to multiple people. You fill out mountains of paperwork. You wonder if you're getting a good deal. You always wonder if you're getting a good deal. And then you leave exhausted. Carvana recognized something that traditional dealerships ignored. Customers didn't want more salespeople. They wanted less friction. That's a huge distinction. Think about what's happening in your business is causing friction for the customer experience. Many business owners think growth comes from adding more people. The smartest businesses remove unnecessary steps. Carvana built an entire company around that concept. Online shopping, no-haggle pricing, home delivery. You can order a car in your pajamas. Transparent pricing, minimal paperwork. They simplified a process consumers already really disliked, hated for decades. That's one reason they became a massive disruptor in the used car sales. Now, what are they doing now? One thing I always say in business is that you always have to aim. If you don't aim, you're going to become obsolete. Aim is always market and innovate. So what is Carvana doing? They're attempting to apply that same model, that same proven concept to new vehicles. What exactly is Carvana doing? Well, let's dive into it. Most people don't realize how significant this move is. Carvana has really quietly acquired multiple dealerships selling Jeeps, Dodges, Chryslers, Ram. Instead of operating them like traditional dealerships, Carvana is really redesigning the customer experience. So creating what they call new car, new car playgrounds. Wow, that's unique. New car playgrounds. Because if you think about it, the customer experience in buying a car has really never evolved. It's been the same way for decades. But what Carvana is doing with the new car playground is customers can walk in, walk around vehicles, scan QR codes, use their smartphones, research features, schedule test drives, and buy with very little salesperson interaction. And that's what customers are wanting. Salespeople become guides instead of closers. That's a major shift. Think about that. What major shift can you make in your business? Why this is a smart strategy. Let's talk about why I believe this strategy has tremendous upside. Reason number one, what are they doing? They're solving a real consumer problem. The best businesses solve friction. Carvana isn't inventing demand. They're not inventing demand already. People already want vehicles. They're improving the buying experience. While you improve the customer experience, you often win market share without creating a new product. Think about that. I do business, all types of vendors in business. I've bought cars, I've bought homes, I've bought commercial real estate. And sometimes the friction, the chaos will cause me to walk out the door and not buy anything anymore. And this is what's been happening in this industry. So Amazon did this. Think about this. Amazon did this. Uber did this. Airbnb did this. Carvana is attempting the same thing. They ask, how do we make buying a vehicle easier? If you think about Amazon, what do? They simplified the process. You don't have to go to Target and Walmart and all of those stores anymore. You can practically buy anything on Amazon from the convenience of your home in your pajamas and have it delivered to you practically overnight. Walmart is now doing this. Uber did this. What does that mean? Instead of having to call a taxi cab, wait for them, and be extremely disappointed by the experience, Uber changed the way that we go from location to location. So Carvana is doing the same thing. Why don't you look in your business and ask yourself, what can be done in my business that really changes the buyer's experience, that really removes all the friction? So Carvana asked, how do we make buying a vehicle easier? That question alone has created billions of dollars in value. Think about that. That one question. Ask yourself 3 questions. I want you to ask yourself these 3 questions. Number 1, what business are you in right now? The business that you think you're in is typically not the business you're even in, believe it or not. Number 2, what is your superpower? What does your company do better than anybody else? And number 3, most important question you can ever ask yourself in your company. What business should I be in? You heard me. What business should I be in? Couple of examples. Amazon. Amazon was in the bookstore business. They distributed books. So that was their business. Then they asked themselves that powerful question. What is our superpower? And Amazon said distribution is our superpower. We distribute better than anyone else. Number 3, what business should we be in? And guess what Amazon said? We should be in the business where you can buy anything from Amazon from the comfort of your own home. You don't have to run to the hardware store. You don't have to go to the grocery store. You don't have to go really anywhere. You can buy anything you want. McDonald's asked the same question. What business are we in? And the McDonough brothers said, we're in the restaurant business. But Ray Kroc came along and said, no, we're not. We're in the real estate business. Ask yourself those three questions. Those are the most powerful questions you will ever ask yourself, and it will transform your business like that. So, what is Carvana doing? They're leveraging existing infrastructure. This is where many entrepreneurs really make mistakes. They chase shiny objects. Us entrepreneurs are squirrel, 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 squirrel. We're always looking for the next opportunity. Instead of focusing and growing on what we have, we're always looking for something next. That's not always incongruent with our current company. They build entirely new businesses. Carvana isn't starting from ground zero. They already have brand awareness. Everybody knows who Carvana is. Logistics, financing, capabilities, online buying systems, vehicle transportation infrastructure, customer acquisition, systems in business. Leverage matters. The highest value companies don't consistently reinvent themselves. They leverage existing assets into new revenue streams. This, in my opinion, is brilliant. Carvana is taking an existing platform and expanding its use. That's smart, my friends. Look at what you can do. Ask yourself those three powerful questions. Number 3, they understand consumer behavior. Today's consumers expect convenience. They want everything quick. They want everything now. Think about what happened to banking and travel, retail, entertainment. Everything moved online. Why do you think Toys R Us went out of business? Because you can buy all of those toys online. Toys R Us did nothing to aim. They stopped marketing and they stopped innovating. They did not pay attention to the customer experience. And I can name a bunch of other businesses that follow the Toys R Us suit. You have to innovate. You have to market. Cars are one of the last major purchases still heavily dependent upon in-person processes. Everything else has changed. Everything else has evolved, but not the car industry. Carvana sees the trend, and they're betting the future customer wants less dealership and more technology. That's a logical assumption. Whether they're right remains to be seen. But they're following consumer behavior rather than fighting it. And that's what entrepreneurs do. That's what business owners do. They want to do the same thing the same way they've always done it. That's called death. You're either living or growing. There's no in between. That's why AIM is so important. Always innovate and always market. Reason number 4, they may create a competitive advantage. One thing I teach in Exit Rich is proprietary. Proprietary is a number 1 multiple value driver that can take you from a 4 to a 6 to a 10, sometimes even bigger. The 4P proprietary isn't just about patents, it's systems, it's processes, technology, it's customer experiences, brand positioning, brand awareness, brand advocacy. Carvana has spent years building a unique buying experience. Now they're applying that experience to a market segment many competitors haven't really modernized. It's the same old, same old. Remember I said the way we buy cars today is the way we've always bought cars for decades. If successful, that becomes a powerful competitive advantage. Really focus on that. What industry can you look at that hasn't changed in decades? What industry do you think needs AIM? Now let's really talk about the risk, because every strategy has weaknesses. Nothing's perfect. You always got to take inventory. What's the strengths? What's the weaknesses? What's the best that can happen? What's the most likely that can happen? And what's the worst that can happen when you implement new strategies? or create new businesses or new product lines. And this one has several risks. Risk number one, new cars are not used cars. So is it going to be the same philosophy? Is it going to be, are our buyers going to want the same experience as used car buyers want? That's something you'd have to ask. This is where entrepreneurs often get into trouble because they don't think these things through. They assume success in one area, that it's just automatic, translates to another. But it doesn't. New car dealerships operate under franchise agreements. Manufacturers impose requirements. Facilities must meet standards. Processes must meet standards. Operation becomes more complicated. Carvana is moving into a heavily regulated environment that historically resists disruption. That's why the industry hasn't moved. It's because of some of the risk. Risk number two, they may lose their focus. One of the biggest reasons businesses fail is lack of focus. Remember the entrepreneur? Scroll. Entrepreneurs get sidetracked like that. Focus is the number one thing that a business needs to survive and thrive. Business owners get excited. They chase opportunities. They really want to expand too quickly. They move into adjacent industries. And that can be okay if you've done your research, if you've done your due diligence, if you built a solid foundation, you can move into concurrent industries. But you can't do it overnight. There's a lot of due diligence, a lot of research. And it really is imperative that you've already built a solid foundation. Because if you try to align with a different industry and you haven't built that solid foundation on the 6 Ps that I described in Exit Rich, then you're just creating more chaos. And neither business might survive that chaos. Suddenly, they're managing complexity instead of creating value. That's what I want you to think about. The question investors should ask is, does this strengthen Carvana's core business, or does it distract management from what made them so successful? That's a legitimate concern. And that, again, goes back to those 3 questions. What business are you in? What's your superpower? What business should you be in? Risk number 3, consumers still want human interaction. Think about that. There's nothing more frustrating when you have an issue and you can't contact a real person. Facebook, all these social media channels. There's so many different companies out there that you can never contact them. And I choose not to do business with people and businesses I can't contact. Now, sometimes we don't have a choice. In social media, we don't have that choice. But human interaction is imperative. Here's something that many technology companies forget. People buy emotionally. I've been talking about this for years, and I've been asking the question, do people buy based on logic or do people buy based on emotions? People buy based on emotions, especially cars. They want to drive that car. They want to sit in that car. They want to feel themselves owning that car. That's where salespeople are empowered because they can help create that experience. Cars are emotional purchases. Research suggests that many buyers still want to sit in the vehicle, just like I said. They want to test drive it. They want to ask questions. They really want to discuss financing. And they do want to meet with someone face to face. Now, everyone wants fully digital experience. We're not quite there yet, folks. Technology often improves transactions, but it doesn't always replace relationships. That's what you have to think about. Risk number 4, dealer pushback. Traditional dealerships aren't going to sit quietly. These businesses have political influence, industry relationships, manufacturing relationships, state-level protections. Whenever a disruptor enters a protected market, resistance follows. Resistance is going to follow anyway because nobody wants to change what they're doing. People are comfortable being where they are. I always say, in order to grow, you must get comfortable with being uncomfortable, or you will stay stagnant. You will never, ever grow. So you will have resistance. We've seen it within Uber, Airbnb. Tesla still gets a tremendous amount of resistance. Carvana should expect the same. They're not going to be any different. The big lesson for business owners, here's what I find to be most interesting. This story really isn't about cars. It's not about cars at all. It's about strategy. It's about asking yourself, what business are you in, your superpower, and what business should you be in? The businesses that really create extraordinary value do three things exceptionally well. Number one, they remove friction. Every business owner should ask, what frustrates my customers? What wastes their time? What slows them down? The answers usually reveal opportunities. And I will tell you, this is prevalent in every single industry. There is so much friction trying to do business with banks, trying to do business sometimes with hotels, airlines, social media. You name a company out there, there is friction. And I always want to go in and start fixing it, but it's not that easy. So ask yourself, what friction is in your business? What causes a buyer frustration? What causes a buyer to give you a bad review instead of a good one? Friction, lots of friction in your business will not only cause your clients to disappear, but they're also going to tell everybody else why they shouldn't do business with you. Number two, they build around customer experience. Most businesses focus on products. Great businesses focus on experiences. Customers really remember experiences. They remember how you made them feel. They remember that the buying experience was easy, simple, uncomplicated. I always say a confused buyer is a buyer that never ever buys. Customers recommend experiences. That's why Toys R Us died, is because they weren't creating an experience. Same thing with Disney stores. Remember, there used to be a Disney store in every single mall? Well, those businesses failed because they were not providing experiences. Disney has stayed around for decades and decades and decades because of the experience. Customers pay premium price for experiences. Think about it. Carvana understands that. Carvana really understands that, and they really get that. Number three, they continue reinventing the marketplace changes. Consumers' expectations change. Entrepreneurs want to keep doing the same thing the same way day over day, but customers want change. This is why Amazon is winning, because they change buyers' buying habits. They change the way we think. Before we jump in our car, we go to Amazon real quick and see if we can buy it there. Technology changes. The business that survives keeps evolving. The businesses that die keep defending yesterday's model. That lesson applies to every single industry. I know it applies to yours. There's not one industry that this does not apply to. The exit rich perspective. Let's look at this. Y'all know how I think. Many of you have read my book. So let's talk about the exit rich perspective, my perspective. Let's look at this through the lens of what I call the Seiler Tucker 6 Ps. Number one is people. You always got to ask yourself, as I'm sure Carvana is asking themselves, do they have the right leadership capable of managing this expansion? Because what got you there, what got you here won't get you there. You have to look at your leadership team. You have to look at your employees, and you have to ask yourself, are they able to maintain Carvana as it has been and this new platform? Or do we need a new leadership team? And then you want to do a deep dive into product. Can the customer experience transfer successfully into new car sales? Well, I know Carvana's done a lot of research and a lot of due diligence. The proof is in the pudding, we'll see. But you want to do the same thing and ask yourself that question. processes? Are their systems scalable enough for franchise operations? A lot of business owners come to me because my background is franchise sales, franchise development, franchise operations. And then I transitioned to mergers and acquisitions. And they say, Michelle, I should franchise my business. Not every business is franchisable for multiple reasons. If you want to franchise your operations, you really have to ask yourself a bunch of questions. And guess what? I'll do an Exit Rich podcast on just franchising. Proprietary. This may be their greatest strength. The technology. They have the technology, the brand, and the customer experience. Patrons. Will existing customers embrace the new model? Profits. Will the economics justify the investment? Everybody seems to get stuck here as they're like, oh, I'm going to grow this congruent revenue stream. I'm going to acquire this business. I'm going to do this and this and this without really looking at it to see if it can support itself, if it's going to be profitable. Many entrepreneurs dive into opportunities without ever looking clearly at the investment side and the projections for the next 1 to 5 years. You got to make sure it's a sound financial decision. Those are really the same questions buyers ask when evaluating acquisition targets. Those are also the same questions entrepreneurs should ask before entering new markets. So is Carvana brilliant? Or is it a huge risk? Are they brilliant? Possibly. Is it risky? Absolutely. Absolutely. The best strategies often are. What I admire is that they're really challenging assumptions. They're asking, why does buying a car still work this way? That's often where innovation begins. The biggest lessons for business owners is this. Don't confuse tradition with necessity. Just because something has already been done a certain way doesn't mean it should continue that way. At the same time, don't assume disruption alone creates value. Disruption without execution creates chaos. Disruption combined with operational excellence really creates enterprise value. And ultimately, that's what every entrepreneur should be building. A business that creates value, a business that scales, a business that's sustainable, that can run without you, a business that can thrive with or without you, its founder. Because that's how you build a company worth owning. And that's how you exit rich. Until next time, I'm Michelle Seiler Tucker. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Exit Rich. Make sure you share this with your network. Remember, your network equals your net worth. Get this out and make sure you subscribe to Exit Rich. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Exit Rich podcast. Don't forget to check out Michelle Seiler Tucker's Build to Sell Blueprint books and Exit Rich, along with more blogs, videos, and resources at exitrichpodcast.com. Be sure to connect with Michelle on Facebook or LinkedIn and stay tuned for her next episode by subscribing in your favorite podcast player.